Welcome to Forever Exile, the Path of Exile podcast. I am Justin, aka Tags.
And I am Tyler, Wrecker of Days.
Episode 85 of Forever Exiled. Who'd have thought we'd have got to 85?
It's a neat one because that's 15 away from 100.
It is.
That's neat.
Yep.
It's like the less popular version of quarters. 15s.
Yeah, 15. Nobody likes
it's
15.
Almost
That's
like
two,
six. Almost.
2 coins. You don't want 2 coins.
Horrible. No way.
Plus
Quarter
it's a little.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
And it's like the 5s are jagged and not round.
Nope. Thank you guys so much for
half
joining us for 85 episodes so far. And for our patrons, that's like, I can't do math, 130 something episodes. You guys are awesome. If you're curious what our Patreon is, you can find information down below. But the biggest thing is you get access to After Dark, which is our podcast after this podcast, where we talk more stuff. And this week, we're talking Private League.
Yeah, we're going to figure it all out tonight.
Yep. Our Private League is coming. The Forever Exile Private League. If you're curious about it, it will be announced shortly, and we'll figure out all our crap in the episode after this.
That's right. So if you have any suggestions or desires, make sure you
Too
message
late.
us. But then that's right. Then remember that after all that effort of typing it in and all your hopes and dreams, we'll have already decided.
That's true. So hopefully we'll have it out relatively quickly. Maybe even by the time people are listening to this. I don't know. This comes out Monday. We'll see.
Ooh.
Anyway, thank you guys for supporting the podcast. You guys are awesome. We had a bunch join back up. So thank you to all of you guys. How was your week, Ty?
I had a good week, man. You want to go first?
No, you go first. This is my favorite part of the podcast. I know everybody else loves it. Listen, this is, for some people who don't get it, this is our chance to catch up. Tyler and I don't get to hang out too much during the week,
right?
Even less so this week.
That's right.
This podcast started for us to talk and catch up with each other.
This is just us hanging out. So yeah, you're just going to have to really like that part of the podcast. My wife is absolutely in love with the show Hamilton. Have you seen the musical?
Yeah.
Came out last year?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So she's in love with it.
Well, the musical came out a long time ago, but it came out on Disney. Yeah.
Well, the modern version that I'm referring to came out in 2020. So last year.
The Disney version of it, but it was a musical for a long time. And the cast that's in the movie Hamilton's been performed on Broadway for a number of years now.
Okay. So she's been a huge fan of it for forever and ever and ever, and has listened to it tons. The appropriate songs that can be heard by a young family, she has blaring all the time. The kids know it all. They're rapping away like the Schuyler sisters.
Ethan knows it word to word. Yep.
Totally. So anyway, I love musicals. I'm the kind of, I always have music going in my head. I'm humming and hawing. Never good at it, but I love it. And, but for some reason, the story never interested me. Like, no offense to half our listeners, but like history of another country. We're from Canada. History from another country interests me, but not a lot. You know what I mean? So it's not going to be the driving point of my motivation. And I've seen a ton of musicals, so I wasn't in a hurry to see it. And I absolutely loved it. We watched it on Wednesday night. Oh, it was so good. But like it was perfect. Their facial expressions, their just everything about every single action, their facial expressions, how they did everything. Even like the people, I don't know the proper terms, even though I was in this kind of stuff a long time ago, the people that are in charge of moving the stage and like all the mechanics behind it.
That
and
stage is
sure
crazy too.
Perfect.
The giant circle.
It was. And they did it so perfectly, and everything was intertwined. The story was perfectly laid out and categorized like a perfect puzzle. And dude, the king,
he's so funny.
My goodness, it was, you just makes you laugh. And did you know he does Kristoff's voice in Sven and Frozen? So I thought that was pretty cool.
They were supposed to come to Vancouver, and COVID shut it down. And so now I think there's still planned for them to come in 2022, I think. But yeah, they were supposed to be coming to Vancouver. Ethan was freaking out, wanted tickets. We looked into it. They were wickedly expensive.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
Like insanely expensive.
So it was really cool. And then I ended up obviously really liking the story. I like any history.
It actually is good, yeah.
So yeah, it's pretty neat because they're our neighbors, right? So that history is a little bit more prevalent to us. And so it was neat. And then funny enough, so we were talking last episode about the COVID restrictions for our area lightening up a little bit.
Yay.
And I remember for spring break, they relaxed the COVID restrictions for spring break. Kind of like the numbers weren't any better, but it was almost like they felt bad for us. So they tried to come up with a way of like, okay, we'll meet you halfway. And then our numbers exploded in a negative way after spring break. And so this time around, we just had a May long weekend for a lot of families. It was a 4-day weekend here, and they didn't relax.
This is the long
rules
weekend for the USA. So just in case we forget, happy this long weekend. Memorial Day,
is it
maybe?
the Memorial Day?
Yeah,
That's right. I
weekend.
screwed that up last episode. Yes, happy Memorial Day or weekend, and or as the English say, weekend. So anyway, they didn't relax them for this
long weekend
for
us. Yep.
But the day after, I couldn't believe how lenient the restrictions are. I feel like we're almost back to normal. It's crazy.
Have you seen the chart that they put out that breaks down BC's plan back? Oh, it gave me shivers.
By September, they're aiming, for the sake of school, that things are going to be back to normal. They're hoping, as long as people aren't idiots.
Right. A new normal, but yeah, totally.
So
I can't wait.
Amazing. And we're allowed, it's not even bubble related now, just. You don't have to just hang out with the same people.
It's just one single family.
Well, I mean, you have a massive family, but I think I could go to your house with the 4 of us.
Yep.
And that's fine. You could come to our house and that's fine. I can go to my mom's house.
We have people coming over tomorrow and it is the weirdest feeling. And my kids are like off the roof. Excited.
It's so crazy. So it's neat. Like, now you're still technically not allowed touching and stuff, except for
we lick,
like very
so it's fine.
except for like very special, unique circumstances, like grandparents, they said. But outside of that, still do your best to keep distance, but you can actually do up to 10 people, 11 people gatherings inside, which is awesome. So my in-laws are coming over. They live in the Okanagan. And so that's about 3-ish hours away from us, 4 hours, whatever it is. And so they're driving down. They were coming anyway. They're going to stay at a hotel all appropriately. They just had some appointments they needed to get to. And the restrictions changed as they were on their way over. So we were able to have, because it's hit them really hard. And so it was really cool to have a lot more of a relaxed visit with them. And then they got to visit their other grandkids so it was perfect timing for that. So I was really happy. And hopefully, if you live in Justin's and my neck of the woods, don't be an idiot so we can have life back to normal in September.
Well, even today, I think the numbers were down to like 300 new cases, which is really good in comparison to what number. Yeah.
Yes.
And I know people right now who are not first responders and that type of stuff that are starting to get called back for their second shots already.
Yeah,
so
they lowered it down to 2 months.
I'm really excited to get so it's only supposed to be three weeks, but they told everybody, obviously they want to give people a much longer wait. But yes, I'm so excited. When I saw the chart, I was like, restaurants are opening back up. And we can start. I mean, it's going to be recommended masks in July. I actually don't really care. As long as in July, the inter-province travel is allowed, that's all I care about. Because I'm going away the end of July.
Yeah, I'm financially committed. That's right.
I'm going. I don't care.
Anyway, big showing from the province of BC. That was awesome. Oh, man, I missed that show. Hey, Wayne's World? Oh, so good. And we didn't even talk about this, and we were floored that we forgot to talk about it.
Yeah, we didn't remember till after dark.
Right. We played Battle for Middle-earth 2, our absolute favorite real-time strategy game. Justin and I have done way back in the day, before like internet was even a thing. We would take we'd LAN party. Our sleepovers would be
super nerds.
Us hauling our desktops over. My poor dad, like we're hauling our desktops over. They can't even use, I didn't even cross my mind that they couldn't use the computer while I was gone.
Setting them up in my basement.
That's right. And we would play like a 4-way, that would like Age of Empires 2, Battle for Middle-earth 2. And I remember like, this is EA making an RTS here, like a legit one, not like their normal money grabbing stuff. And I remember in the very first one, like the elves, if they were near trees, they would go invisible and, because they were hiding and stealthy. And that blew my mind at that time for RTSs. And the second one was so good. And so anyway, they lost the license forever ago, right? They only had like a 5-year, 6-year license for that part of how, man, they do crazy licensing, Tolkien Enterprises. It's weird how they do it. So anyway, they weren't allowed to touch the game anymore, and Justin found a way for us to play, but not just play, but play online and legitimately. So super excited. Oh, dang, you told me it was. You told me.
It's fine.
You swindler. So anyway, we've been playing a few times, and my goodness. Well, actually, we were playing the Angmar expansion, and we hated it.
Yeah, the Rise of the Witch King.
That's right. But we'll go back to the original.
It was annoying.
I remember that it was a very big change. But Anyway,
So much fun.
we had a blast Monday night, and it was awesome to get back on the RTS train. It's been forever.
I sent you a link to Age of Empires 4, and I don't know if you noticed in the trailer for it, but they had that same effect of when your guys are in trees, they're actually going to be somewhat stealth to enemies that may be walking by.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
That's so cool. Just as long as Age of Empires 4 has the
city.
Well, yeah, like the reward system for doing well with a faction or nationality. I loved how Battle for Middle-earth 2 had a recognition system for how efficient you were with that team, but it didn't benefit you in game. I loved how Age of Empires 3 actually rewarded you for either how often or how well you were, how successful you were.
You want to know why it's a struggle though for them to do that? The reason it's a struggle is because and we love it. Age of Empires 3, so much fun. And you have to also keep in mind, when Tyler and I play any of these games, we are not playing with other people online. We're not playing against human beings. We're playing against
we hate
people that like send their stuff early and get it annoying. We're not into that. But Age of Empires 3 is actually very much beneficial. The more you've played a city, the more you've played a civ, and that is actually not what most game developers try to do, because they don't want something where, because you've played it longer, you have a bigger benefit if you play against somebody who's newer. And Age of Empires 3 is that, but we don't mind that, because if I want to play the Ottomans, you can go and jump into somebody new.
You love those
and
cannons, man.
Oh, give me those cannons.
Those cannons, yeah.
But it didn't matter because we were playing together.
You protect my banks.
You and your friggin' banks. It didn't matter because we played together, right? So it's kind of hard, though. I'm curious with Age of Empires 4 if they go the same route and go, yeah, we understand that the more you play, you're going to get a benefit. And we're okay with that. Because a lot of companies won't do that.
Yeah, I hope they do. It's kind of like PoE. The more you play, the better you get. I'm fine with that. So how was your week?
My week was really good. It was just work. I worked almost all week, which was fantastic, even into most of the evenings. I wanted to give a quick shout out to a lot of very cool people. We had just a little bit of a douche message us during last episode,
right?
And it happened live while we were recording, and so we talked about it, especially on the just the side of being nice to people. But I did mention, I think at the end of the episode, that you can message us on our website. There's a place for you to leave even voice messages that we will hear, and we've had people leave some pretty cool messages. Even Yoji leaving his standard YouTube video start. I'm not even gonna try and do it because it'll be offensive. But we had a lot of people reach out on there, and I just want to thank you guys for saying hi and telling us that you're enjoying the podcast, and that Tyler is he's an okay guy.
But I still need hair plugs.
Nope, nobody said that.
Aww.
They said that you were just straight up sexy. It didn't even matter. I don't think that was the words they used. But
they haven't seen my mayo belly. My wife was making fun of me. I was running to get the garbage cans out.
You can't run.
No, I can't. Actually, I cannot at all. It's really bad for me. The guy that I went to go see for my neck said I'm not allowed to anymore. Not like I ever did. And but it was like garbage day or whatever today. What was it? Garbage and compost. Anyway, I'm like, it's cold outside, and I went in my bare feet, so I'm like skipping down the driveway, and my wife looked at me and pointed, and yep, my boobs were going. There's no hiding those anymore.
That's awesome.
Anyway, sorry, go ahead. People are fantastic, and thank you so much for making sure. Just being nice. Really encouraging. Really appreciate it.
Somebody also reached out to me, and this is dangerous, but reached out and said, hey, if you're ever interested, I run a lot of private servers, and if you want to set one up for space engineers, message me. I was like,
did you do it?
No, I'm scared to say yes. I'm not, because I still want to play Path of Exile. And if all of a sudden I'm playing space, here's the other thing. Space engineers is really fun, but if I had to play against people that could just start shooting me, I would get angry real quick.
Ask for a private server.
Just a private where I'm the admin, so I can be like /kill Tyler.
I'm not playing. Have fun.
Anyway, so yeah, it was good. I am still trying to sort my lawn out with regards to whatever happened with this seed that was spread. Not impressed about it.
Let it go, man.
You know what, Ty? Here's the problem, and this is a little blasphemous to say this, but if I don't sort it and it doesn't get fixed properly, I'm going to put fake grass down and put the like super green turf that you can get done that's like
but
children
still
and dog
water it
friendly.
so nobody knows.
You treat it once a year, but I don't want to. So I'm hoping I can sort this out. But that's my next step. That's my final step. That's how angry I am.
So you set up an in-ground irrigation system.
Yep. Just in time to potentially replace it all.
Oh man.
I'm sure it's not going to happen, but it's got me a little irritated.
Why don't you just use the alfalfa sprouts for your salad?
No, I want crisp green lawn. That's what I want.
Grow your lawn. Maybe grow your lawn longer. How long do you like it?
1.5 to 2 inches. What I'm aiming for.
Oh, it's pretty long. Good roots.
So anyway, that was my week. My week was work, and that's it.
And nice people.
Yep. So nice. Hey, I also have. I'm gonna just update you because I know you care. I've been feeling great still. I'm down 23 pounds.
What?
Yep.
Wow. That's like a pound a
really
year.
well.
Good for you.
Yeah. So that's like, I think that's the last 2.5 months, 3 months now that I've been on this for.
Wow.
So it's been good. Yeah. Starting to feel better, getting way better sleep, feeling healthier, feeling more upbeat.
Okay.
Still have some things I got to sort out, but yeah, I did the blood thing. I'm going back again next week for a different thing that we're going to be playing around with and trying out. I'm looking into something called prolotherapy, and it's specifically for my lower back because I have degenerative disc disease in my lowest 2 or 3 vertebrae. But they do an injection into the spine, and it creates scar tissue around the site to try and help your body heal and to just make it so that you don't deal with the pain. So I'm going to go see him about that too.
Wow.
All the things until they can replace my back with an Android.
Would you go for an Android?
100%.
Because then you're looking into like the whole Deus Ex thing, right? You remember?
I
love the
heartbeat.
politics in the Deus Ex video game. I love what they took from what was it, graphic novel? I think it was. And anyway, like just the whole concept. It's almost like, what was that? Repo Man, where it's like that whole argument of like how much of you can you replace before you're not human anymore, or like the whole idea of like not Running Man, but that was a sweet Arnold Schwarzenegger show. What's the Harrison Ford Android show? Do androids dream of robot sheep? What's that? What's it called?
I have no idea.
It's old. What? It's where's the book?
Well, cool story. But I
would
take
like you would actually
take a robot back. Oh my god, in a heartbeat. I would replace my entire spine with metal or something.
I'm looking
if I could. Yeah, I wouldn't even think twice. I already talked to my guy about it. They do it in some places in Europe. You can't get it done in Canada, but there are some places in Europe where they will do replacement spines.
Blade Runner. You're not gonna.
That's what I would do.
Blade Runner it. That's all about like or
I don't even know what you're talking about.
Humans or not?
Sounds cool. No, I would take it in a heartbeat.
Watch this show. Wow. Okay. Cool.
Wouldn't even think twice. If I could do it in Canada, I would do it tomorrow.
Just for a back or for everything?
For my back.
What if you could like get new lungs, just run forever?
No, the rest of me is healthy. I have issues with the back. That's why I would do it. I wouldn't do it just for fun.
Could you replace your face, please?
Who would do that? No one would want that. Come on now. All right, let's get into PoE. How was your PoE week this week?
I don't know if it's because I basically had an unintentional break in 3.13. The performance on both of my platforms was so bad that I literally couldn't play. So I don't know if it was because of that unintentional, like basically 2-3 month break for 3.13, or maybe it's because the console performance now that I got an Xbox Series X. Maybe it's because the game just performs so much better. But I'm like itching to play PoE. When I get 20 minutes, I'm like, could I get a map in? I know I couldn't do Zana, but could I get a map? Like I'm really just itching to play. And our buddy Chris that we have, he's into the game. He's liking it, but he has a normal schedule. So we played. I think we only played maybe a month ago, but we played again this week. Great, had such a good time. We finished Act 2, on to Act 3 a little bit. Got into the sewers and then had to take off, but it's fun. It's a lot of fun to play with someone new, obviously with a friend, yeah, because you enjoy each other's company. But it's neat to see like, hey, can you do this? Hey, can you do that? And because he listens to the podcast, even though he's not a PoE guy, he's like going through his equipment, and I'm waiting for him to finish his stuff up. And he's like, hey, is there any way to like identify everything all at once? And I'm like, don't even get me started. But then he only said it because he remembers.
Totally.
I don't know how someone who doesn't know PoE remembers these things about PoE anyway, so it was kind of
it's
funny.
Specifically because he knows it'll drive you crazy.
Right.
That's
yeah. But he does it
perfect.
in such a good way that I don't
Sure.
remember. And so, anyway. But I actually, I've flip-flopped back and forth on how to play, well, like what to play with them, because I don't want to do all the damage, but I don't want to like overprotect them so he doesn't learn about gear. So, but I decided I've made an aura champion. And I'm really excited for it. It's going to do lots of taunting. It's going to have crazy aura efficiency. And it works really well because you can add because of the new arrogance gem. I think it's arrogance, the one that reserves life, so you could do like vitality, clarity, precision, and it doesn't take up too much of your life. And so it's nice because then you could do like a non-unique specific aura bot, and it works out quite well. And it's going to use Molten Shell. It's going to be, hopefully, the idea is that it's really tanky, about 350% armor from the tree and lots of life and all the aura stuff. So it's nice. I'm hoping it's going to work out really well. But I mean, we're a quarter of the way through Act 3, so give us a while. But it'll be good.
What's he playing?
It'll be good. I forget what he started. Remember when we made it so that him, Ryan, and our wives had to play and beat, who was it? Brutus. They had to beat Brutus to get on After Dark with us that one time. So I forget what he started with, but he found out pretty quick that you get mauled in this game. You just get
he also was auto attacking everything.
Sure, yeah, they didn't know, but you get swarmed very quickly in this game. He normally likes to play a tank, but he said he learned very quickly that you need to keep your distance if you have a shot when you're trying to figure things out. So I made him a Caustic Arrow Trickster. And so he's on the way, and Caustic Arrow's a lot of fun to deal with, and you don't have to like worry about lots of different mechanics in the game. So yeah. But I got to play some PC and console this week, and I'm going to get into a lot of this once. What are we in right now? 3:14. I'm going to get into this a lot more once 3:15 starts, but I'm in love with the concept of blind playthroughs now, which is a total 180 for me for all the years I've played. This is the first league I've done it, and I loved it. And I'm loving the concept of the vanilla PoE. So not planning ahead, not using the tools, just like, okay, you want to start a new build today, just okay, let's see. And I'm like, I haven't done a trapper in forever. Then just start going.
Okay, yeah, so that's all blind. Why though? Why did that change? What changed for you? Because you were so anal about it before. We'd have to take days to start new characters.
Yeah. I think the idea...
It was the start of this league for you.
It was. And I think it just takes a lot of the stress out when you don't have to min-max. And when you have the attitude that you don't have to min-max, but you're still having fun, you're still killing, you're still living. It kind of... I guess it reminded me this league, but it's a reminder every time you play, like, okay, well, what can I do? What can I change? And I like then seeing, okay, well, how many regrets am I getting? Okay, well, those are actually pretty valuable because I keep changing my mind now. I'm going to be really hesitant to put points into my ascendancy if I'm still wavering. Might wait, even though I've unlocked it for a little bit. Oh man, these scourings, like for this weapon that I keep switching back and forth. Do I want to use axes? Do I want to use staffs? Do I want to or staves? I don't know. Do you say staffs or staves?
I would say it's staves because I feel like I sound smarter, but it's a weird word.
So anyway, I don't know. I like that idea. And then I feel like I'm learning more about the game when I go through and I'm like, wait, where does this gem unlock? Wait, what does that do again? So it was kind of neat. I was going to bring this up later, but for example, I learned I was going through and I was playing one of my builds and I was still kind of going with the blind mentality. And I'm like, cruelty support, that's new. What does that do? And the description's typical PoE. It says you gain cruelty when you do this. Cruelty lasts for this long, but you have no idea what cruelty does. But I hit Alt, and it described cruelty.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know how long that's been in there, because that was one thing you loved about Last Epoch, and you were complaining about. So hopefully, for our sake, it hasn't been in there since 3.0. But it was awesome to hold Alt, read what cruelty is, and not whine or complain or worry about if the wiki's up to date or see what POB had to say. So really had to go ahead.
Well, so cruelty, that obviously just came in this league, so it's new to this league, but they have started with some things starting to show on Alt, but it's not all. Even some uniques that grant certain things
but
if you hold down Alt.
Eh?
No, it's not everything. No.
Oh, interesting. Well, I'm excited for it
Hit
to
or
come
miss,
through.
man. Yep. Yeah, sometimes you get lucky.
If they're starting, so that's great. So anyway, I've been really enjoying that build that I started blindly this league was kind of like a minion champion. I was thinking of going with Herald of Purity and Summon Phantasm support. So I was going to call it Surprise Party because none of those minions are there when you first walk into the scene and you're facing all these enemies. It's just you. But then all of a sudden you start attacking and all of a sudden you have this massive horde behind you. But I've been really liking the build a lot. And I did multiple in-game changes on PC to try it out. But because we always play in your world per se, I didn't really have the maps to truly test it out. I still only had yellow and white. So I did a lot of testing on PC to see, all the different, just a whole bunch of different stuff. Did I want Leech? Did I want to buff Fortify? Did I want to put all my damage into minion nodes, and then using, what's that, Spiritual Aid? That kind of stuff. Playing around with a whole bunch of different things. Bleed, no bleed. But because I didn't have the maps on PC, I respec'd a champ on console. And I think that champ was around 87. And then I went and started to fly through stuff. And I don't actually do armor builds, so I don't save gear with armor mods on them. And this is an armor-based build, so I didn't really get the true satisfaction of seeing what its survivability was like. But I had a lot of time on, well, not a lot for me, maybe 6 hours of PoE this week on both platforms, and I had a really, really good time doing it. There was some, of course, because I didn't have the proper gear for it. There was some content I couldn't do, like those freaking Beyond bosses. Oh my goodness. Just some of them, like you get slowed and then all of a sudden it's like whack, 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 with this fire lightning bolt and you're dead. And it's like, what was I supposed to do? I couldn't even move. But so I'm thinking of respecking my Righteous Fire Elementalist back into a Chieftain. I think it's been 3 leagues as an Elementalist. It used to be a Chieftain. Moved it to an Elementalist for 3 leagues. And now I think I'm going back to Chieftain. And, so I'm still testing that one out as well, but I'm pretty sure about it. And I not really making any tweaks. But I'd use that one to save the day in maps, so I wouldn't, miss out on the content if my champion wasn't working with it, and kept passing in the test with flying colors. So it was a great week. I had a lot of fun. Didn't mean to talk about it so long, but played champion, played the chieftain, but keeping it minions and righteous fire. Ah, man, just if I could have a zombie righteous fire curse heavy character that did lots of damage and had great survivability, I'd be dancing. Did you play at all?
I did a map. I did one map just for fun, just to see if I was like thrown off by last week's really good performance, and it was still great.
Awesome.
It was fine.
Test approved.
Yep, so far so good. I will get more into it. I mean, I'm going to play the private league, obviously, so I'm just relaxing a little bit. I haven't had a ton of time to play much, so I watched people play while I was working this week, so that kind of counts for something. I don't want to get into a new character right as we're getting closer to a private league, and I'm a little bit done with the slams. I'm not sure what I'm going to do yet for private league, but I need something different. I need something that's not so much a rotational build like that. I just found that was getting a little bit annoying.
Yeah, sure.
Like going, okay, this cry, hit twice, cry once, hit once, then Val, then, repeat the cycle.
Want me to make you a 1-button build? I know a guy.
No, I don't like 1-button builds. If I was to ever I did it one time. I played around with the idea of a no-button build where it was all, yeah,
it was
so fun. It was so much fun. No, I don't think it was Firestorm.
Yeah, your chest it was like a non-stop firestorm.
Well, I used the rat's nest, or the not rat's nest. Sorry, what's the name of that chest? Crap, I can't remember what it's called, but
I remember.
Yeah, it was fun. That was the first time I ever tried playing something where you could just, and that was going back where like Minotaur was the big, Minotaur and Shaper. That was endgame, and he was always the test for me. Was, can I sustain the Minotaur fight? But no, I don't tend to like 1-button builds, but I also don't like.
I could make you a 4-button
7-button builds. I don't think you could.
Sure, I could.
No, I don't think you could.
You get rid of cast when damage taken on every single one of my builds, and you've got a 4-button build, and you have 4 extra gem slots.
Just wait till you have the new linking system in Path of Exile with cast when damage taken.
Just don't.
It's gonna just be all cast when damage taken.
Oh, I can't even handle it. I need a moment to myself.
You have a 6-link for skills and damage? No.
Yeah, you got it wrong.
That's 5 things per that you could have on cast when damage taken.
You need a flame wall. You need a frost wall. You need, no way.
Oh my god, you have literally the ugliest screen ever. Anyway, I did watch a lot of people play, but I didn't play myself a whole lot. So
That's a
let's
load
get
of
into
crap.
this
You
week,
didn't watch
though.
anybody.
I watched you for a little bit.
We saw your brother broadcasting Minecraft.
Oh, we watched my brother. Yeah,
Yeah.
my younger brother started, I don't know why, but streaming, and he was playing Minecraft. So we went
And
and hung
having a
out.
great time. It's
Yeah,
in
he was
Discord.
chatty.
Justin's posting
Yep.
in Discord, so make sure you give him for our Discord.
I put it in the
and you
community
don't care-
creators. You'll have to scroll up, but I did post to go and follow him because I thought it was hilarious.
Yeah.
Because he's not a personable streamer type, but he was getting right
He
in there
seemed
talking
great.
with somebody.
I thought he
Yep.
was doing awesome. You're just being a brother. He
But
was great.
you were playing Xbox for a bit when I turned it on once. I was like, no, I can't do this. The health is in the wrong spot.
The HUD is
inventory is
different.
in the opposite sides. I just don't like it.
I wonder why they changed where things are located, because it doesn't matter.
Yeah, there's got to be a reason.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure there is. I just wonder what it is, because
Probably the
health
console
lasts-
players are just slower, and so then they don't have to look. I don't actually know.
They have part of a
calm
flask
down. I was
system
joking.
that
Just relax.
They have part of a flask system that you want, the smart flask system.
You're proving my point that they're making it because those people are slower.
I'm fine with that.
I
I'm
know
okay
you are.
being slow.
I'll
I'm
take
okay
it too,
being slow.
actually.
But do you know what the smart flask thing is?
Yeah. I don't actually like that, though. I don't want that. I don't want them to be like...
No, I would like the macro thing you're talking... Not macro thing, but it'd be nice to be able to say, okay, button 1 actually uses these 3 flasks, button 2 uses these. I think that'd be awesome. And oh my goodness, flask would be so much better on console for that too. But right now, the smart flask thing is just...
If you want health, use any of my health. And I don't like that.
No, I do.
Yeah.
Because I
use all
like
health.
using... Well, it's the same as me. I'm like 1 and 4 on the PC. 5 is my escape. 4 is, I don't know. Okay, then it's just 4, 1 and 5. But anyway, whatever.
I want them to give me the ability to give me a mini macro to make for my flask. I think it'd be so cool.
Yeah.
But whatever. All right, let's get into this week in PoE because there's lots of stuff to talk about.
Yeah, huge.
Fan art again, always good. People do crazy stuff. Yeah, if you watch on our YouTube, we usually put some of them on there just for fun to be in the background.
Yeah. Some faves.
Would you, if you were good, I feel like if I was ever good at art, it would be a bad thing.
Why?
I don't know that I would not do it. And then I wouldn't have time to work. Like some of these drawings and these things, there's no way you're doing it quickly. I would be scared that
it's
if I was
cutting into their PoE time or their studying time.
Or yeah, anything else.
Or this one art teacher out there is like, wow, there's a lot of really depressing people because they're all in the same class,
Yeah, right.
all writing all this. Yeah.
Yeah, and especially if it's all PoE stuff, they're like, what is wrong with this person?
Octopus legs and blood tits? What's
Why are there
going
like
on?
evil devil with multiple horns? And oh my God.
Is that a red X face?
Easy on the boobs.
Eh.
I like the fact that somebody drew Rise surfing.
Yeah, that's kind of funny. Hey, putting a
That was pretty
community creator in there. Yeah, that's awesome.
That was fun. We had a bunch of MTX. Yeah. Did you care about any of them?
You know what's funny? In regards to the MTX, I forgot. So hang on. What? Ensnaring arrow, a brimstone weapon effect, divine sigil, a necrotic character effect. That one was actually deceiving. They said raise your dead with this new necrotic character effect. So they said it was a character effect, but I'm like, raise the dead? What? Zombies? And I'm like looking around and I'm like, I clicked the video and I'm like, where are they?
Gotcha.
Where are the yeah, it was just the necrotic character effect. And I'm like, I look back and I'm like, they said it right, but I was like, oh, so I'm never going to get it just because of that. And then there was a Stygian, which I think is a really cool one, the whole theme of it, but the way the conviction got Stygian. But it's funny because those two, ensnaring arrow is a skill I totally forgot about. And I love just the concept of slowing enemies. Even in Plants vs. Zombies, I'm always putting out the chill piece. Always. I just love slowing enemies. Temporal Chain is my favorite skill in PoE. So I was like, oh, and I got all excited and I looked up Ensnaring Arrow again. And I mean, it's basically just a secondary skill, but I thought it was awesome. And then I even forgot about Sigil of Power. And then, me with my cast and damage taken brain, I'm like, oh, that's, even if it was low level, I mean, obviously you want a high level, but that's a skill I always forget about, probably because it's new and it didn't exist before 3.0, and I never considered the skills.
It's not great either.
New, but it still gives you some damage. And if you're not concerned about mana, and I mean, if you're using life tap with arrogance, you never care about mana per se. Well, maybe it doesn't work like that. I didn't actually read if it was cost, just like cost of the skill or mana cost, but whatever. either way, like if you were just able to sustain your skill no matter your cast speed or its cost, having that, whether it's low level or high level, is a nice buff. So anyway, I got sigil power in my brain now, and that was all thanks to the MTX.
Okay, cool. Well, that's it for MTX. Well, there was an announcement from Path of Exile regarding, to be honest, I don't actually know what PoE stands for. Community run?
Community race.
Path of Exile community race. It's the speed running season. Now, first off, big props to Brittany because she puts all of this together, does a ton of work in the background. We had a chance to talk to her after 81. We didn't record it because we couldn't actually put it out, but about some of the stuff that was coming up and some of these cool events. And it's really, really cool. And so again, big props to her. It's a lot of work that she puts in behind the scene for this, to make speed running and especially this particular thing, because this is very much like old school speed, or not speed running, but races, where there were seasons and there were different goals and different things. And they've got this whole big thing splitting up over 6 weeks, and they've got different goals and things that people are aiming for. And I think it's really cool, but man, why I just wish they would do it, or something more involved in it than a post on their forums. Like, hey, we're not doing this, but somebody else is. I just think it's unfortunate. I feel like they're missing out on something, because clearly it's something a lot of people like to do. They had a lot of success with the GDQ thing where they did the speedrunners and people watched it. So it is really cool. I'm super happy that they're, giving the props to her and bringing some attention to it. But I read it and I was like, you guys are just, it's not like a passing the buck thing, but to me, it's a little bit
of it.
Yeah, but it is cool.
I think they were, GGG mentioned really getting heavily involved into racing at, not Comic-Con, what's it called? ExileCon.
ExileCon, yeah.
And I think Brittle may have mentioned once or twice that it's just COVID could be the primary reason that promise per se hasn't come to realization. So whatever talks there are, whatever's going on in the background, post-COVID, we'll see how, things come back around, right? It'll take companies a little bit, like the second COVID's gone per se from the world, companies just aren't instantly back. So once, money comes back to normal and schedules come back to normal and like your employee numbers come back to normal, after a tiny bit of time, hopefully we'll see a little bit more of that promise come to realization that they gave us at ExileCon. But like you said, in the meantime, kudos to Brittle and her entire team that's working behind the scenes. And I'm glad PoE posted it, and they made a post just about it, which is really cool. It's not like, hey, we're having a sale, also check out Brittle's thing.
Did they announce it though too? Like, because we're already into the second week of her thing. So I don't know if they ever announced it when it first started, because hopefully they did. But the one thing I do think is really cool that she does is she tries to focus on the idea of not killing yourself to play the game and to do the races.
The actual health aspect of playing video games.
And so this is all focused around that too, where there's goals per week and you can kind of refine and, change up how you're going to do the following week. I think that's really cool. I hope that they did post it. I know you can still do it, even though it's 2 weeks in. You can still get involved, which is cool, but hopefully they posted it earlier than that.
Wow. Yeah, sure. Now, stats. I'm going to nerd out on stats.
I got some comments for this.
You like some stats. Okay, you stats. Go. Tell me some stats.
No, okay, let's go. We're going to go back and forth on this one, I think. And so this is all their stats around Ultimatum. The stats is all around Ultimatum. It's about how many ultimatums were run, the things that were given away, what different types of things, what types of ultimatums were more run, were less successful. I love stats. Love it. Absolutely love it. The one thing that, as I read this though, that I still think Grinding Gear Games has 197% missed the mark on is the circles. I don't think they get why people don't like the circles. The stand in the circle one. It's not because they talk about, it's the least run and it has the highest failure rate. Well, I'm going to tell you that there's a good chance that it has the highest failure rate because people go, nah, F this, I'm out. I'm not doing a circle one. It's not because they're dying more in them. They're just getting tired of how stupid it is. That's why there's such a big discrepancy. And so when I read it and they were like, they even call out the fact that there's such a big difference in the stone circles, but I don't think they understand that it's because it's stupid. It's not a fun, in comparison to the other 3 options that you have, where it's just like kill things and you can't I don't want to beat a dead horse, but you can't tell me to stand in a circle in a game where I can't see the ground. It's stupid.
Right.
It's really,
100%.
really dumb. Why else do you think that's being a high failure rate?
And, I played this game for a long time. A lot of people tell me I don't know anything about the game, but if you didn't actually tell me that you didn't have to stay in the circle,
right,
and it saves your progress, I
yeah.
never would have even tested it. The game's not slow enough for me to be like, okay, now let's see if, right? So I'm running into a circle and I'm trying to stay there. And I don't know why I think that. Maybe there's some sort of thing in the game that's like it, that you can't do it. But I think that if I leave the circle, I either have to restart it or it starts to digress. I don't know that basically my circle progress of standing in the circle for a certain time frame is saved, and I could just keep running in circles if I wanted to throughout the entire map, like I would for every other type of ultimatum. So I'm sure people have been trying to stand in that circle a long time, and this isn't, the game's not in a state where standing still is good for 90% of builds. Like you said, people are going to skip it after they figured that part out.
Yeah, so I really I want to talk more about the other stats, but this was the one thing where I was like, you guys are just tone deaf. You're just not getting it. That's not why. No, you shrug your, I know you like to give them credit and, the benefit of the doubt, but in this one, I was like, come on. It's not because more people are failing it because they're dying. It's more people are going, nope.
Yeah.
Don't want to do it.
Maybe.
So, no, it's not a maybe.
Okay, well,
it's not. It's
to
for
me,
sure.
I die lots in those because I was standing still until you told me. I'm sure there's a few other people like me that were dying in them more than others. But that is also a silly design in a game. Like, you got to know the state of your game when you're making content.
It's just really funny because if you look at all the other ones, right? Take out stone circles, they're all with there's a 2% difference of completions between all of them.
Yeah.
And some is even less than 2%. And then you take the stone circles and you're talking 4 to 6%, 4 to 8%, and 11%. Like, that's a big difference where everything else has a very, very tiny window of being close to each other, and that one was way off. So that was my only thing as I read it, where I was like, oh no, you're wrong. But let's get into it. What do you think?
So another stat that blew my mind, because I'm under the impression that these are hard, and I'm dying not a lot, but more than I want to these ultimatums. And if I'm not in a dying mood, I might even skip the ultimatum and just go and continue with normal content. But I was really surprised for people. So this stat for completing an ultimatum, a wave of an ultimatum, is if you've started the wave. So if you've started this wave, waves 1 to 9 have a 90% completion rate. That's insane to me. Goodness me, like a 90%. Like, I got to a point, sure, where I was doing well, but even in like my pre-level 70s, like level 1 to 70, I wasn't capable of completing all of those. I was bailing halfway through because I'm like, no, I want those 3 alks. You know what I mean? Like, no, sure, I guess I was completing that one, but only wave 10 had a 60% completion rate if you started the wave.
Yeah.
So I thought that was pretty crazy. 64% of Trial Master encounters weren't started.
Here's another part. Okay, so here's another part that to me is also, and maybe you know what? I should give them some credit in the sense that they're not stupid. And so when I make the comment about the circles, they're probably just not going to post the fact that, yeah, it's maybe not the best mechanic. They probably understand that, or it's part of their thought. This one, hopefully,
that's where my
is another
shrug
one.
came from before.
This is hopefully another one that stands out to them because that means maybe your ultimatum's not working. Maybe people aren't that into ultimatum. 64% that you're talking about, just the ones that had a trial master at the end. That's not just in general how many weren't started. That's just the ones where there could have been a trial master. 64% of people just went whoosh, right on by.
I think you'd rather have people dying to your boss than never seeing it.
Yep.
Granted, there are some things in a game like this that you only want elite players, whether you know them or not is irrelevant. Not talking about popular, but I'm talking about like well-versed, well-rounded, know the game inside and out, know how to make a build. There is some content that only they should be able to reach. And to me, that's okay. But
sure. Just not RNG based. That's my problem with it.
Well, and I don't think it should be any of the temporary bosses. If you're making a league, like I see some core stuff.
Boss. Yeah.
Right. That's exactly it. And so when you add the RNG factor to this, you're seeing a lot of people that aren't seeing any of their goals being made. So I don't know. That to me, I'm on the same page as you. I don't think it's an optimal design going forward. Hopefully, it doesn't continue RNG bosses.
Because they talk about that and they say that the average player in level 78 and higher, which is what you need, are fighting the Trial Master 1 in 140 times.
140 maps.
Again, here's where I feel like they're a little bit tone deaf, or they're just, maybe I don't get it. Some players have said that they feel the Trial Master is too rare. Investigations while generating these stats, which show these players are often not playing through to wave 10, failing encounters, or not even starting the encounter to begin with. I don't think any of those things are the player's fault. Maybe that you couldn't make it to wave 10, that's different. But I don't think it's fair to think that 1 in 140, regardless of the other circumstances, that's what you should be doing for your league boss. It's so silly that 1 in 140 maps, there is no chance the average player is multiple times playing through 140 maps in a league. I'm not talking about the people that play a huge portion of the time. I get it. But the average person, it's I'm just going to reference back to Badgers League. I didn't bring this up last league, but it was something that popped up to me because I looked through his stuff. I was curious about it.
Yeah.
And he was asking people, what's your timeline to play? And the reason for it is so they could split people up evenly. I didn't even reach the minimum of what they were suggesting for people, which was, I think, 1 to 3 hours per day. And then it was like something, it just went up from there.
Wow.
I don't think the average player, though, is playing more than 1 to 3 hours per day in Path of Exile. And so 140 maps to get your chance at 1 in 140 of seeing this guy, what a waste of your big boss. 100%. It's just so silly.
And that's 140 maps if you're getting wave 10 every time. That's not like, what if you died once? Oh, shoot, maybe I have to wait 280 more maps.
Yeah, because the 140 is the average.
Right.
That means some people are much, much, much higher.
It's crazy.
Weird to me.
Yeah. Now, those hopefully constructive criticisms aside, I read, while I was reading through that, I saw that rewards are generated, and this is just a tidbit, it's just neat to know. Rewards are generated at the start of a sequence of ultimatums.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of when it's all decided. It's
Do you think it would be bad for them to show that beforehand?
I don't think it's an important stat. It's something I find interesting and I like knowing.
No, I don't think you're understanding my question.
No, I guess
for them to show you that information before you start the thing, so that if you continued, this is the total. This is what is in 1 through whatever, and maybe it has 9.
If you knew your rewards for all 10 waves, I think that'd be awesome.
I think what you should do, because my concern originally was if they showed you that, people would do what they used to do and just speed run to the ultimatum, check what the rewards will be, and decide whether they're going to do it or not, and restart a new map. Which, again, though, I don't know that I have a problem with that. But let's say after like the 5th wave, you unlock the ability to see the remainder of it or something. So I still have to play
the halfway point.
Yeah. Sure. I just think it would be, I think if people knew what the potential things were to come, it also might make people more likely to risk it. If they're like, oh man, if I can get to 9.
Yeah, it is an ultimatum league.
Something.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like maybe you'd have more people pushing further into the ultimatums.
Oh, that's a good point. I could see pros and cons on both sides, but I think the RNG aspect to it all is kind of a big hit and miss for me. Like when something's that RNG, I don't have the motivation to do it all. I have less motivation to do it all. So I'm like, okay, sweet. Oh, wow. 4 chaos. I don't want to lose that. So I see the next item and it's 3 scourings. And I'm like, okay, no, I'll just take it and go. I'll find those 3 scourings later. And so I'm the type of person where this type of RNG stuff is less motivating to me. I'll find what I like. I'm content with it and I'm moving on.
You might change your mind though if you knew what those 9
that's exactly
things might show up front. Yeah. And you talk about that they mentioned that the rewards are actually generated at the beginning. And then they also talk about the fact that there were 173 mirrors that were generated as rewards and 70 that were received as rewards. But when I read that, though, I was like, okay, so 173 were generated, but I would have rather known how many of them actually were, that's where you failed. You know what I mean? Like, because that could have been the 9th or 10th and you only got to 6. So they never even saw that it was a mirror potential.
Yeah.
I would have rather known like how many did somebody actually lose, because then I would laugh more at it. You know, if I was like, oh my god, 80 people actually saw the mirror
Saw
there.
it. Yeah, that's right. Man,
That's
you are
awesome.
one pathetic loser. No offense.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I really, really do like the stats. It's just reading these ones this time, I was like, oh, I don't think you guys are getting a couple of the things.
Well, yeah, and it's nice to hope, to have faith that, that they'll, maybe they like the RNG boss thing. I don't know. To me, the Harvest was their RNG boss trial. Maybe they've done it before and I just didn't know or whatever, but Harvest was their RNG boss system, and then they changed it to be more static and
Delve
rewarding
sort of
and
was too, right?
splinters.
Because Delve, you had to go and find them.
Sure, but that's everything Delve. You know what I mean? But once you have it there, it's there. It's not like, okay, shoot, I failed at it and now I don't know when I'm going to see it again. You can always go back to that one spot and fight them with the exact same mods. And they changed the Harvest boss to go from RNG to be something a lot more static. But then the next boss they come out with is RNG again. And then I think even Heist was RNG with how the contracts dropped, right?
It was definitely more RNG, yeah. Not as bad as this.
No. So, we'll see.
My personal opinion, this is a terrible way to do bosses.
I agree.
I want to actually, Maven, I knew what the goal was. I knew how to get to the point of fighting her. I never wanted to because I think the fight's stupid, but I knew how to do it. Same with Shaper, same with Elder. I knew what to do to get to them. Doing maps and hoping that you get it in 140 is not, that doesn't count as like a way to do it. That's just, I don't like it.
Oh, and on a total side note, but just because you said Maven, GGG, just because your game is about a child doesn't mean I want to play a childish game. No, like color matching stuff. I just want to. I want to play PoE.
Well, it's not color matching.
Not her
it's like
game.
Simon says.
I don't care.
Or whatever.
Yeah. That's not that's not
that
why
Is that better?
I play. Yeah. Oh, that changes everything. My opinion has been changed. I love that they came out with a part 2 of the Q&A.
Yeah, it's cool that they did
I was
that.
disappointed with how much whining there was about the first one. You didn't answer my question. You didn't answer
was
my
there?
question.
Oh, okay.
Oh, well, of course there always is, but I'm glad they came out with a second Q&A because there's always going to be awesome questions that are missed out.
I still think
There's
they should put it all
only so
together
much
and
you
make
can
one
do.
big FAQ.
Yeah. And well, you know what? Yeah. And there were some really good explanations in this one. To me, this one, there was like some real definitive long explanations for how certain mechanics intertwine with each other and where there's some exceptions, but it was explained most of the time in a language that I could understand.
I had one which was glancing blows. So you do whatever you had, and that's the one I want to talk about is glancing blows.
I don't have glancing blows on.
Beautiful.
Here. You won't? Okay. Traps and mines being affected by auras is a bug, and it will be fixed at some point. Hasn't it always? I always thought auras impacted your traps.
It's been a bug for a long time.
Like we're talking years, right?
Mm-hmm. It's been a bug for a very long time.
Because they were talking about how like when you lay your trap, it actually doesn't exist until it's triggered, but then it only exists for like a split second, and then it explodes or whatever it is, and then it doesn't exist anymore. And so auras are technically not supposed to. It's supposed to be one of the exceptions to auras, even though they're still kind of allies, but they're kind of not. So anyway, it's a bug that they have set up for a future patch.
That's why they use the typical Grinding Gear games verbiage when they say will be fixed at some point. That could be within 4 seconds or 3 years. You just don't know.
Well, we'll see. We'll see. At least it's not a big deal. Like you could take advantage of it, but if it doesn't work, that's the way it's supposed to be. What? What do you smile? What's your
I love saying something that's even just slightly against GGG, and you're like, "But wait a minute,
hold up,
just take it easy, take it easy."
Trying their best.
Go ahead.
I like knowing these things. I wish these things were in the game, that maybe there was like a reference, like a diagram that showed you radius numbers and units and stuff like that. So when you're seeing numbers on your screen, you could go to the help section and bring up that picture and it would give you a small reference. But auras take, oh no, wait, this isn't, oh, that was for the next one. But so for the aura radius, someone asked what Pride's base radius is. And the response was 40, the same as most other aura skills. Oh, well, I didn't know that about the other skills either, so that's good to know. I wish that was in the game, and I wish there was a reference in the game. So maybe one day. Auras take, now this one I thought was kind of interesting. Auras take up to 250 milliseconds to start affecting a new object. That's like over 2 seconds.
No, 250 milliseconds. It's a quarter of a second.
Oh yeah, 1,000. Okay, can you take that out, please?
repeat.
Yeah. Okay, so that's not a big deal at all. But still, I thought that was neat that there's actually a time frame where it could take up to. I don't know if it's a maximum or if that's part of code, but that's kind of neat, especially if you're doing one of those builds where you have allies, like corpses and stuff like that exploding. And so, what else do I have here? Minions cannot currently benefit from triggered skills from equipment, like with Necromantic Aegis. This is a technical limitation that we hope to change in the future, so PoE 2. Monsters cannot gain skills from equipment in the way that players do. That got me going like crazy, because if that's something that they can add in PoE 2, where your monster's outside of the horribly descripted animated guardian, if monsters can gain, well, I guess even the AG doesn't gain skills. Yeah, it just gains your the mods, but it doesn't gain skills. But if monsters could gain skills from equipment,
well, to me, it always made sense that they should be able to, but this has always been a thing that people have asked about this, and that's the reason. Well, there's no reason. It's just that there's a limitation for them for it.
Right. And so I guess my point is that it's neat to hear that it's just a technical limitation. It's not something they've chosen to keep out, something they can't. Right. And hopefully they will. So that's pretty neat. My next thing might be big. Why don't you tell me your thing?
Well, okay, it was just funny. It was talking about glancing blows. People asking if glancing blows with the ritual boots, which grant increased block but let 20% damage through, like how does that work? So by default, you take 0% of damage from a blocked hit. If you don't have glancing blows, just by default, if you block the hit, you take 0 damage. Glancing blows make it so that you take 65% of that damage. So you're only blocking, 35% of the damage. And the implicit modifier on those boots means you take 20% of the damage of blocked hits. And so they're just saying if you have both, you would take 85% of the damage from blocked hits. So instead, you'd only block 15% of the damage. But I really like the fact that they say, for future reference, if it's ever possible to get more than 100% total of this stat, blocked hits will indeed cause more damage than unblocked hits. I'm excited to see someone make a build around that if and when it's possible. That made me laugh. The idea that you could actually make it so you take more damage from a blocked hit. I love that. Made me laugh.
Right. Yeah, that'd be great. There's your cast and damage taken build revive, Justin. Have you ever heard of map equity?
I read it and I was like, oh, interesting.
I didn't know it existed. I just thought it was 100% dice rolling. Every single time a map dropped, a dice rolled for this equation, a dice rolled for that equation, dice rolled for this, and then you got whatever map. And thank goodness they added a favorite system. So I still don't understand the math, but I know my chances are better to get said map. So apparently map equity is a thing. And now it's actually a very big part of the FAQ. It's at the bottom. I highly suggest reading it if you haven't read the FAQ yet. So this is for the Q&A, not FAQ. This is for the Q&A part 2. There's a whole section on map equity.
It's at the bottom.
It's really, what did I say?
No, I'm just saying it's the whole bottom.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah. And so, but it's really cool to know. And as Justin said, there's no FAQ. So definitely if that's something that interests you, go and read it, like this week before all of a sudden that gets pushed down, because it's kind of hard to find some of the stuff you're looking for when you're just trying to Google search it. And you're probably not going to remember the term map equity, but it's pretty neat because it's talking about the fact that if you haven't had a map drop in a certain amount of time, basically every map you do where you haven't had a certain kind of map drop, you're building up your chances to get that map to drop. Like maybe it's a certain tier of a map. So let's say you're doing, I don't know, what was the example, tier 13 maps, and you're not getting a tier 13 map to drop. The more maps you do, the more likely you are to get a tier 13 drop. And then once it drops, then, that kind of counter resets. And it was kind of interesting. And so they were talking about some of the different strategies about it, but also it was kind of neat. Maybe that was something they added when people were really complaining about sustaining maps. What was that, 2 years ago, when I think it was a really big subject? Maybe that they added that then, but it was kind of neat to know just in their math equations that there's a thing of map equity. The more maps you do,
Keep in mind that the tier of the map affects the equity, though.
Right, of course. So what was do you have that in front of you? What was the amount of equity you needed for a T16 to drop?
Well, they don't tell you what the amount you need. They just tell you there's a cap to the equity,
Okay.
equity, which is 143 million, which is technically the equivalent of running 10 tier 16 maps. A tier 5 map grants 81 equity. My favorite part about reading this, because I did read it, is this is the perfect example of GGG like punching me in the face, making me feel stupid. And they do it a lot. Like sometimes when you're reading like patch notes or something, you're like, what? This is a great example. You should read it. I think everybody should read it because it does make sense if you read it slow.
Yes.
Focus a little bit and understand that you're just a little stupid and you're trying to read like what is coming out of a Grinding Gear Games developer's head, which is like, well, let me tell you.
But the funny thing is, and the perfect example of where they go with the answer, and I love the answer, and I highly suggest, like we said, everybody read it to actually know the information. But the very first question in the map equity section is, what is map equity? They didn't answer it at all. No, they gave you stats, I think it was, but they didn't actually say even what map equity is. So you have to figure out what map equity is as they're explaining how map equity works. And so, but anyway, it was a really cool read. It was neat to know that it all of a sudden existed. So congratulations to the people that knew about it and were asking about it. And I think there was one more thing that I thought was neat. This is something that I kind of already knew, but throwing it out there anyway. Somebody asked if different items have a different like internal hidden mod or value that affects the odds of six linking. I guess this specific person's they've really tried six linking certain items and it just never happened.
I imagine it's no. I didn't see that question, but I imagine it's no.
No, I think it was actually from a Reddit post, but it sounded Q&A-ish, so I threw it in. So Mark_GGG says, no items have different role values when it comes to linking. Of course, changing the quality of an item does change that, but they all have the same values when it comes to six linking. So, but there is, the only thing that does impact six linking is, of course, the item level. But that's just based on, that doesn't improve your chances for six linking. It's just if you can get up to 6 sockets. So just make sure you're not trying to six link something that's an item level, I don't know, that you can't even get 6 sockets on. So anyway, it was a really cool read. Map equity, that's the thing. Then there were patch notes.
There was only one thing in here that I saw, which was increased monster area of effect for private leagues, which was a big fat nope.
You'll be
the rest I didn't care
happy
about.
to know. In my notes, I also said never.
Oh, good.
Increased monster AoE to me is the last thing I would want. I complain enough about not knowing where damage is. The fact of the concept
Cyrus is
of
killing you before you even
bigger,
come through the portal.
That's right. Wouldn't that be awesome? You have like maybe watch it affect those massive circles in the boss arena, and you just have to stand in it. So now I got a question for you.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll ask it in the next Q&A, even though it's not a mechanics question. But what makes this so special? This is 3.14.2.
Yep.
We made it to 0.2.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a 0.1 letter. It's a 0.2. Why is this 0.2? It doesn't sound special. It just looks like more fixes. There's nothing big about it. I kind of expected the video card one to be.
That was the D. We got the D, and now they needed to move on to the 2.
So what's the letter? What's the number? Why? So I want to know. What's snapshotting? They fixed some calculation and snapshotting bugs. A snapshotting sounds like a term you would know.
Snapshotting is, well, if I understand it correctly, it's something that happens in the game where it takes information that happens right at that moment. It's used for a lot of different things. I remember them
saying something like that, where it used to be that RF was you would only get the damage for Righteous Fire from when you turned it on. But if you had other modifiers that changed it, it wouldn't matter until you like recast it.
It's used for a lot of things, but my understanding is that's the way that it works.
Okay. This is something I wish never existed, but it's a very big thank you now. Map boss clones created by the Maven no longer persist after the boss dies.
I don't think I've ever experienced that.
Thank you. Well, you kill things really fast. So they were probably dead all at the same time. Wouldn't this suck? Because legacy maps can't progress any quest lines. So I'm curious if they would be able to progress even Maven stuff. Maybe the Maven counters, I don't know. But fixed a bug where vendor recipes for 3-to-1 sometimes would give you the legacy variant. Imagine if you had so many maps that you were doing the vendor recipe and you were just doing it quick and you didn't notice you were getting the legacy
Would
variant.
that happen in the league as well, or is this a standard thing?
Well, no, that's
That could happen in a normal in the league
actually
too?
it didn't say if it was league specific,
Huh.
but
Interesting.
yeah. So it did say. So anyway, they fixed it. They were talking about foil maps. That's something you know what a foil map is? Let's just pretend we do, and we're very happy that they fixed it.
Oh, good. They needed to be fixed. Yeah.
Fixed a bug where increased attack speed and cast speed modifiers couldn't be unveiled on quicksilvers and amulets. Imagine if you were trying to farm for that. Now, I know it's not the same thing as the alteration game, but I was just playing when I was doing all my respecking and stuff. I was playing the, go through 1,000 alterations to try and get a mod game. Imagine if you're doing that same thing and you were farming Syndicate because you really wanted one unveiling mod, especially now that they always roll the top tier mod. And so you're going through all this effort, you're doing Syndicate, nothing's showing up. I don't get it. Why isn't it showing up? Imagine if it was bugged and it never would have shown up no matter how many you did. Oh. So happy for those people that it's now ready to go. Hopefully not too many people suffered through that one. So I learned something. Actually, it seems like I learned a whole lot of new things today coming up with notes for the podcast with all those neat things like foiling maps, obviously but range and weapon range. I'm not overly well versed with melee weapons, and they did change how melee weapons interacted with enemies in the game, starting with 3.0. I remember them showing how the old way of a melee attack would work versus the new way. They had the cone. They were fighting against Hillock. It was really cool information. So I'm going through and I'm respecking my... So I started this league with you with that surprise minion champion build, and I was using Blade Storm, and then I would have Herald of Purity and what were those things called? The Phantasms on a different thing there. They would proc each other, or Phantasms were linked to Herald of Purity. There it is. So anyway, but I'm using my own melee skill. But I'm like, you know what? Just for fun, let's try out Dominating Blow. This build's DPS would dramatically increase with 9 extra Sentinels kicking around, so let's just try it. I know I can't do it on PC, but let's try it. I'm using a two-handed weapon for the first time in forever, and I'm all of a sudden discovering that this game, because of the 3.0 changes, which, I mean, what are we at, 14? So that's 3 years ago now, 3.5 years ago. But this game is a little bit kind of like, when you're playing Dark Souls, you might love a weapon, but you hate its moveset, right? So you're not going to use it because you don't like the moveset. Or you'll pick a weapon not because of its stats, but 100% because of its moveset, something you can't change. Now with the 3.0 changes that they did so long ago, there's certain skills where you might actually care about the moveset per se. I'm playing this build with Dominating Blow with the two-handed axe, and it's doing like a 180-degree sweep right in front of me. It's awesome. So I went and I tried this build, and I respec'd into Dominating Blow, Champion, that kind of thing down on console, but I didn't have a good 5-link kicking around. I only had a staff. Worked well for the color sockets anyway, because that set of links is mostly red and blue. That works well for a staff for easy chromaticking. Is chromaticking a thing? Yeah, we're going to use it. And I'm like, I'm not hitting anywhere near as much. I started comparing swords versus axes versus staffs versus maces and mauls. They swing totally different. And the AoE, especially if you're thinking about AoE, it's totally different. The staff, half of it's such an angled sweep. It has almost no AoE. So all of a sudden I'm thinking, like, because I'm trying to... PoE is obviously really well known for its loot, and anybody that plays the game wants to... It sounds kind of contrary, but you're trying to mitigate and cut out as much of that loot as possible with your loot filter. With this build that I'm making, any two-handed melee weapon will work. It's not specific. I'm just using minion nodes and then spiritual aid and then spiritual command or whatever for the attack speed and attack damage. So I can use any two-handed weapon as long as I have the attributes. And so I'm like, how do I mitigate that? If I was to actually make this into a build and I wanted to play it and make my own filter for it, I don't want every single two-handed weapon, like the top 5 of every single two-handed weapon to show up. How do I mitigate this? And all of a sudden I'm like, man, axes have like the biggest natural AoE no matter what you're doing. It's insane. I'd never use a staff for this Dominating Blow build.
Do you block though with the staff?
You do get an 18% chance to block. It is only now. I'm not a fan of
20 with judgment.
Yes, that's true. That's true. And so anyway, there's a tiny bit of that there, but it's the slowest of the two-handed melee attack speeds as well. Like it's 1.15, I think it is. And you can get up to 1.4 with axes and swords, 1.35 with mauls. So if you're going for attack speed, which is important for me with dominating blow, because it's always a chance to proc a sentinel when you're hitting a unique item or a unique enemy. So anyway, I got looking into all that stuff, and it was really neat to kind of notice and kind of almost put my Dark Souls theory crafting mentality into Path of Exile with like, okay, well, which weapon set, which movement do I like the best? And then I've never even clicked on this page in the wiki, but there's a range page on the wiki. And again, this is some of that kind of information like I was talking about with Ors, where I would love to have this information in game. But there's a page there, and I hope it's still accurate, where it talks about the default weapon range for item classes. So both kinds of daggers have a weapon range of 10. All one-handed weapons have a weapon, outside of daggers, have a weapon range of 11. And then all two-handed weapons, including fishing rods, have a range that's 2 greater than that, which is actually pretty substantial because that to get an extra 2, so it's 13 for all the two-handed weapons. And that, like to increase your melee range by 2 on the tree does take some investment. Like you got to go out of your way and you're not getting as much of what you want in other things.
Especially for you, yeah. Depending on where you're playing in the tree, but yeah, you do.
Of course. And then bows and wands, your ranged ones, they actually have a weapon range of 120. Now, that's just because, that's how far your bow is going to shoot or your kinetic blast, your wand attack. But yeah, so I thought it was a new thing and it was kind of neat. And so I was looking at range and seeing what it was like. I wanted... Because I was waving my staff around and I'm like, man, that looks like I'm waving a one-handed weapon around. Like it looks pretty piddly. But if I'm to trust the wiki, it's a range of 13, just like the axe. But that movement where dominating blows actually hitting in a 180 degree arc per se, instead of just, that 25% right in front of me. So it was pretty neat to learn about and discover. And I thought it was hopefully not boring to share with people. Path of Exile and Dark Souls in one. It was pretty neat.
Sorry, I just woke up. What'd I miss?
No, nothing. So anyway, as I was saying...
Anyway, I think it's a good spot actually to wrap up episode 85.
Wow, it was that boring?
No, it was actually really good, but...
Oh, awesome! Because I actually did need to go to the bathroom before we start After Dark, but... Oh, it's so good. I didn't even have to... Sweet.
Perfect. All right, let's end episode 85 of Forever Exiled, the Path of Exile podcast. I am Justin, a.k.a. Tags.
And I am Tyler, Wrecker of Days.
Thank you guys so much for joining us for our 85th episode. For Patrons, we'll catch you guys in After Dark. We're going to chat a little bit about the Private League. Everybody else, we'll catch you in episode 86. If you're looking for more information, you can find it down below. We got a website, foreverexiled.com. We're on Twitter, foreverexiled82. We have a Discord. If you're not in there, you should be because it's awesome. And all our Patreon and support stuff is listed down below as well. Thank you guys so much for listening. We'll see you in 86.
Oh, you know what I should have done? I should have sung my name because I was all like into Hamilton and thinking about the king and how like spitty and crazy he was. Oh my goodness, it was so funny. La da da. Oh yeah, I'll sing Wrecker of Days one day. It'll be great. 250 milliseconds to start affecting a new object. That's like over 2 seconds.